Dang, we have a huge amount of freaking podcasts now. Just for the last couple of days, I probably have enough podcasts for like the next couple months. Well, I already know I do because I was just editing them. So yeah, I already know I did the ad, and when I did the ad, that was only 2 days ago, I think. Yeah, 2 days ago. And in that time, I made like 5 episodes because there were some solo ones, there were some ones with Deontay, and now I'm doing another solo one. But this one is two things. So one, I just want to say this story. So today, I was like, oh man, I want to walk around Hong Kong like I used to, like back in the game. So I was going to go all the way to Hong Kong, this one part of Hong Kong Island, and I was going to look at this museum on like coastal defense. And of course, I get there a little late, so I only got to look around for 15 minutes, which kind of sucked, but I woke up late because I was watching this video, which I'll get to later. And then I was like, okay, I'll walk to this one place because there's this like lighthouse, and I really wanted to see the lighthouse because I don't know, it seemed like that would be kind of interesting to see. So from the coastal museum thing, I was like, oh man, I could either take the NTR, and the NTR would take like, let's just say it'll take 30 minutes, or I could just walk and it'll take 90 minutes. And I was like, I might as well just walk at this point. Like, why not? Why not? So I did this long 90-minute walk. I walked for like 3 miles. I mean, I'm okay with walking, so it wasn't that bad, but still, just the point is that I did a long walk. I finally get to the lighthouse, and, well, I don't get there, but I have to, like, climb, because I guess it's kind of part of the mountainous kind of thing. I mean, not mountain, but, I had to walk up a steep kind of path. So I'm walking past little parks, and then I'm walking, like, it's starting to get nighttime, but there's enough light where it's not creepy because there are some parks around. So climbing up, and then I see the leaves move. I'm like, what the heck? Why these leaves move? And then I was like, oh, that was weird. But I keep walking, and then I hear like a snort. I was like, and I just ran back down. Because I was like, I'm not getting attacked by a boar today. So why did I tell you this story? What was the point of the story? To give some wisdom. Sometimes it's just not worth it. Like, I don't care. Like, other people be like, oh, but I already got here, because I was basically there. It was like maybe 4 more minutes of walking, and I would be at the lighthouse. Other people would be like, oh, yeah, it's only 4 more minutes. I'm just going to risk it because I'm not going to, like, waste my journey. But me, I'm like, I don't feel like dying today. I don't feel like getting attacked. I could do this another day. It's not that important. I enjoyed the journey. I'm okay with not seeing the destination, I gotta say. Because I'm not trying to get attacked by a boar. Because that was literally, I heard it. I knew why he did it. It was like, get away. Do not keep walking. And I listened. Sometimes you gotta listen to these animals. Because I'm not getting attacked by a freaking boar. I didn't see where it was. I don't know if that was a demon or not. I don't care. I walked away. Ran away. And I guess I'll do it another day. Not worse. Remember that, kids. Remember that. Sometimes just take the L. Just take the L. Like, let's say you do it a vacation. This is the last day of vacation. You really want to see this thing, and it's a freaking hurricane outside. Just take the L. You don't have to go out anyway. And be like, no, I don't want to waste this day. Or like, say you go somewhere and it's a dark freaking corridor and it looks sus. Your gut feeling is happening. Listen to your gut. Just listen. There's no point. It's just not worth the risk. Don't be the freaking horror movie main character. Be like, I'm just going to go anyway. No, don't be stupid. Now, the second part is actually more important, or like more serious kind of talk. So the second thing I want to talk about was why I was late to all this stuff in the first place. So I just by coincidence saw a video, and it was like this video of 9/11, and it was showing the whole, like, it was a very well done video because it was showing the whole 3 hours, basically showing all the news channels in the radio chatter of the firefighters, or rather that be the air traffic control. It was showing at the bottom, it showed like words of like, giving further context about stuff. And it had like a timeline and all this. So it was really in detail. And for me, because I'm not old enough to have remembered 9/11, like actually, and I feel like a lot of people on the internet who make the jokes and stuff like, the typical 9/11 jokes, or, blah, 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 blah. Someone throws something and then it becomes a thing that hits the Twin Towers. Like, I think since we are so young and we don't remember it, it doesn't, like, the impact of that joke does not hit us. We're just ignorant of like the real impact of that. And even like I think even the people who complain about, like, say, stuff like who make the conspiracies, or who talk about like, oh, we shouldn't have done all this, like complain about the TSA being more anal about stuff, complain about the NSA becoming more invasive about stuff, blah, 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 blah. But like after watching that, I even teared up. Like some tears actually fell when the first plane hit and all that, like hearing the shock of people not knowing what happened. And then when the second plane hit, seeing like that shock, that confusion turn into fear, because now it's like, crap, this is an actual like terrorist attack. And this is all in the span of 3 hours. All this stuff is happening, all this confusion. Like say the first plane that hit, they're like, oh, we don't know what happened. Like, oh, was that a missile? Was that a this? Was that a blank? They're wondering, like you're hearing in the radio chatter, you're hearing in the news. Like there's just this confusion. And then they hear that hijacking happens. And they're like, well, are we sure it's a hijacking? People aren't responding. We're like, they're still wondering what happened. And then it hits the second tower. Then it all changes. And what's worse, they're still confused about stuff. Like say there's the third plane where they're like, there's another plane that we think is hijacked. And they're like, are you sure it's hijacked? Like, blah, 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 blah. And then it hits the Pentagon. And then like, once it hits the Pentagon, you're hearing all this news. You're hearing like, George Bush was like doing this educational thing in Florida. And then he's learning about the news all at once. And there's all this confusion, all this chaos almost, because it's just all happening at once. Boom, boom, boom. And then there's another freaking hijacking. But of course that plane crashed because of some of the passengers started revolting, not listening to the terrorist demands, because he was lying and saying that, oh yeah, we're going to land the plane and do this. But blah, 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 blah. But anyway, it just basically why I even talked about it in the first place is that, like, I think the 9/11 conspiracy kind of fails to consider that all this stuff was like, I don't know how out of nowhere if it really was, like, rather, because they were talking about how there was this meeting with Israel and Palestine right before, ironically kind of topical today, but still there was this meeting where the U.S. ambassadors and the Israeli ambassadors like left out of the meeting like early. And I don't know if this was a sign of what was to come when they left early. And even when the planes hit the towers, there was like some Palestinian terrorist group that was claiming it at first. But then the higher up of the group said, no, that wasn't us. So there's all this confusion. That's all I'm saying, is that this confusion is why I personally do not think that Bush did it or that the government did it. Like, if they did, it just doesn't make sense why they would do it. Like, it just wasn't worth anything. All this, like, what came after could have been done without that event. And just from the radio chatter, just from the news, just from like even the presidents and the vice president, the confusion and the chaos of it, I don't think they did it. I truly don't. And I think this conspiracy, ironically, is probably the dumbest of all conspiracies. This is the one conspiracy that I'm not sure I fully believe in at all. And even like where they're like, oh, don't you see the whatever it's called, the thing that's burning the building right before it falls. Why does that mean that was the government though? Why couldn't it have been also the terrorists? If they were able to coordinate all that, why couldn't they coordinate something else? Or let's just say maybe there's more in that plane, because each of those plane hijackings, they all claim that they had a bomb in the plane. So who knows what was in the plane when they hit the towers. But still, also, where they're saying stuff like, oh, after this was an excuse so they can spy on their citizens more and more. What I believe is that basically 9/11 was the moment the U.S. was caught with his pants down. Like, it was truly the first moment where something really attacked us on our own soil, and they had no clue what was happening. There's this confusion. They didn't expect this to happen. They didn't know what to do when it happened. It took so long for them to even scramble jets. When the first plane hit, there was confusion. When the second plane hit, there was still confusion. They still didn't scramble jets. When the Pentagon was hit, they didn't prepare. They didn't know what to do. Because, the Pentagon hit after the second plane hit, when it was already considered, oh, this is a terrorist attack on the States. They still didn't scramble the jets. They weren't sure, rather scramble the jets or not. And then when the fourth plane got hijacked, they still didn't scramble the jets. It was only after basically it was already over that they finally scrambled the jets. So 2 hours later, they finally scrambled the jets. So this was a moment where the U.S. had its pants down. And what I believe happened, and why there's all this, how the TSA changed, how all this surveillance changed, how the whole war in Iraq happened, or whatever, war in Afghanistan, whichever one. Why that happened, I think the U.S. was like, we were caught with our pants down, and we want to make sure this never, ever, ever happens again. Because, I don't know, if you need to watch the whole 3-hour long thing, because that kind of changes your perspective on a lot. I was always having this view, but it put me even further down this view. Because when you watch it, you truly see that there was nothing, basically, they handled it so poorly. So it makes sense almost why the decisions that were made in the next years afterwards makes full sense when you see it from a God perspective of that video, where you're like, wow, we really didn't know what to do during that circumstance, and we didn't know how to react to it at all. So now it makes sense, okay, well, we're going to make sure this never happens again, because we have all these enemies. This could happen again, and the way we handled it was terrible. And now, maybe the citizens, luckily they did it because there's this whole national unity thing that happened afterwards. But let's say it happens again, it'll make us look bad. It'll make us look like we don't know what we're doing. Our citizens might, lose confidence fully in the government. So it makes sense, what happened afterwards, with rather that be the NSA or the TSA or the CIA or whatever everything. But yeah, this was MiniWiz. That's basically all I just wanted to say, because that video was pretty impactful, I must say. But yeah, that's it. MiniWiz out.